The Comfortably Zoned Radio Network presents The Gall of the Man. And now, the galling man himself, Ralph Zig Tyko.
Thank you, Tally Olson. I am indeed the man with the gall. I have the gall to question the unholy trinity: big business, organized religion, and government. And I do that on a quite regular basis. Along with that, I get to talk to some very, very interesting people, one of whom is a fellow podcaster, a member of the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and my friend, Jerry Feietelberg. Welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing better. I'm getting rid of the problem in my leg, and it's nice to know that there are competent doctors out there, good, caring, compassionate people who help you.
Absolutely. The medical profession gets a short rift, basically because they're controlled by insurance companies telling them how to practice, what tests to take, what tests not to take, and the price of drugs and all of it, hospital care. The physician, the individual physician, gets gets the short end of it in public perception. So if you want to tell us about the history of what you've been going through a little bit, I'd love to hear it.
Well, about 3 weeks ago, I had lunch with a former employee, and everything was fine, and I came back, and in the afternoon, my leg started to feel like it was on fire. And it didn't get any better on Saturday, so we saw him on Friday. And Sunday, I went to the emergency room at Sequoia Hospital in Redwood City. And Sequoia is run by Dignity, and you can make an appointment to go into the emergency room. So I made an appointment for noontime, and I went in, and within 10 or 15 minutes, I was being treated. Didn't have to wait 2 or 3 hours to get treated at this emergency room. So they prescribed a course of antibiotics for me. They diagnosed this as cellulitis. And if left untreated, cellulitis can cause blood clots, and you can have all kinds of problems. Fortunately for me, there were no blood clots, and there was no sepsis in my leg, and the circulation was good in my leg. But after several days of antibiotic therapy, it wasn't getting any better. And I went back to the hospital, and then they prescribed another course of a different antibiotic, and that didn't get better. And about 8 days ago, I got referred to an infectious disease physician, a very lovely young lady who was born in Fiji and is practicing infectious medicine here in Redwood City. And she prescribed a course, or set me up for, she kept me on antibiotics for a few more days, but I wasn't getting any better. Then she just set me up for a series of infusion antibiotics given intravenously. And now the tide is starting to turn. So I'm very, very excited about that. The pain is going away, the swelling is going down. So
I was worried about you for a while because they weren't coming up with anything that made you feel better.
Right. But it's working. It's working.
Good. Keep hanging in there, my friend.
Yeah.
You are generally the man I go to talk not only baseball, and I love talking baseball. I do that a lot. But life itself, and in this case, what I want to talk about, politics. What's going on, the good, the bad, and the ugly of it. Today is what date, Jerry?
Today is the 10th of January.
10th of January, the year of our Lord, 19. And we have a very interesting thing about to happen. The number one Mueller flipper, as far as I can see. Trump's fixer, his attorney for 10 years, through the campaign, before the campaign, well after he was elected president, and I put that in quotes, but he was, and we're dealing with it. And this guy is about to go to jail, and he's coming clean, and not only is he coming clean, he's coming clean in front of the TV audience and Congress at the same time. And CNN reports this as the biggest happening since OJ in terms of what they predict the public's response would be in turning in and being compelled by it all. If not OJ's since Kavanaugh, for sure. That's only been a few months. But this is very exciting. I said on a posting on Facebook today that I think this is the beginning of the end game.
Well, I would hope so. I hope you're absolutely right.
I think this will lead to his resignation, and I wanted your confirmation on that. And how do you feel it's going to turn out?
Oh, I have to agree. This is television at its best. It's going to be riveting television. The public is going to finally find out what the truth is, what has been going on. They, you know that Trump lies. Today he said he never said that Mexico was going to write a check for the wall, and everyone heard him say for the whole campaign, Mexico is going to pay for it. That the United
He's starting
States
to refer to it as a fence or a barrier.
Or barrier, whatever. So
he's the walls are closing in on him from so many different directions that I'm really surprised and disappointed. Basically, it would solve a lot of problems if he would just stroke the fuck out, get it over with. That's how I'm seeing it. But more importantly, what's going to happen is Mueller's going to link some sort of treasonous stuff to all of this, which means that if he goes out because he's a treason, his cabinet must go with him, including the Vice President of the United States, Pence, and Secretary of State would get the job.
No, the Secretary of State will not get the job. The Speaker of the House of Representatives will get the job, and that is.
I'm sorry, Speaker of the House of Representatives. Absolutely.
Right, she's number 3.
That is Nancy Pelosi, who would certainly look good in office. I would go to her inauguration. We would break all kinds of records. It would be the most tremendous inauguration. We'd have millions of people, and we'd have it right here in Alameda, California. No?
Well, Nancy could do it in San Francisco. I take the ferry in for that.
Right, absolutely, and it would be worth it.
I was very fortunate. I was very fortunate to have met Nancy once, and her husband. This goes back a few years ago when Art Agnos was running for mayor of San Francisco. Most people, I don't think I've told you that Art Agnos and I were classmates at Bates College. I've known Art since I was 17 years.
And as a matter of fact, Art Agnos mentioned that you were his classmate.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope he remembers. But I have a lot of affection for Art. I know a lot of people don't like him, but we were good friends. We were friends. I don't know, good friends, but we were friends in college. So the thing is, I met Nancy and her husband at the fundraiser for Art many years ago. But she's a very, very bright woman. She comes from a political family. The father and brother were mayors of Baltimore, the D'Alessandro family, and he's been in Congress for many years. And has done very, 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 very well for the people of California and for the United States. Getting the Obamacare through, something that no one had ever done before. Presidents had talked about having universal health care for people. Only the Democrats, Obama and Pelosi, were able to do that. And you see that Trump is trying to unravel if he can't do it. But anyway.
Two things. First of all, she disappointed me a little bit when she had power over, when the Dems had the Congress in Bush Jr.'s second term, and she could have gone right for him, and she chose not to. And so I lost a little respect for her back then, but at this point, she's a savior. And let's say that Art Agnos was instrumental in keeping my Giants and Russ Hodges' Giants as well, but my Giants primarily, because I'm alive and Russ is no longer alive, so I've inherited it, in San Francisco, back in the days of Bob Lurie taking over. He was instrumental in putting that together, so the Giants wouldn't be here if it weren't for Art Agnos. Now, I don't remember, how it was that he came to be, and I'm just quoting you, disliked by people.
Well, he just seemed to rub, either liked him or didn't like it. There didn't seem to be any middle ground. But I don't know if you knew that Art played first base when he was on the Bates College baseball team. Did you know that?
Oh, really? No,
yeah, he was the first baseman. Yeah, so he's got a great connection with baseball. I don't know if he was a Red Sox fan. He's from Springfield, Massachusetts. So he could have been a Yankee fan, but I don't think he was. I think he may have been a Red Sox fan. So
I don't remember if we talked about George Bush Sr. was a first baseman at Yale.
At Yale, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, who was the very famous guy? It was Ollie North was the bat boy back then.
Oh, okay. Ollie North was the bat boy. Well, too bad I didn't hit him in the head with it. So.
Right. All right. Let's get to the meat of this.
So we're talking about Michael Cohen, and we're going to ask.
What do you think his testimony? Remember, he's testifying to save his skin a little bit too.
He's testifying under oath. He's going to testify. They're going to ask him, were there other women that he paid off besides Stormy Daniels and the young lady that was in Playboy? Were there other affairs that went on? What other things? He was there, and they're going to ask him about the Russia stuff.
That's what I want to hear about. I don't care about the women. See, if a president has as many women as possible, he's going to be happy. If you get a guy like Nixon, no one ever messed with Nixon.
Yeah, that wasn't a problem.
You can't picture him in bed anywhere. And he was dangerous because he had no sexual outlet. I don't care about the women thing, other than he paid these people off to influence the election. I don't care about the women he had.
Yeah, well, that was a campaign. They're saying that's a campaign finance violation because he used campaign finance, or however he did it. So
right. I'm more concerned about making this treasonous, and if he has information to connect Russia with Trump directly, boy, that would be great. I think that would be checkmate.
Well, the thing is that in his testimony, that he said that they were Trump denied negotiating to build a Trump Tower in Mexico, and they were in negotiations to do that, and they must have had contact somewhere along the line.
Well, who was he denying it to?
Who's in Trump? Trump's denying that he never was involved in trying to build a Trump Tower in Moscow. But they were in negotiations to build it when he was the candidate, when he was running to become the candidate, and after the and then he ended when he got the nomination.
Okay. Well,
so he was looking to develop.
When did the allegations take effect? In other words, will the Mueller report be held up by the White House itself, by the administration? Does he have the power to do that? He's talking about.
Well, I'm sure that's why he got rid of Jeff Sessions. Rosenstein is going to stay until the Mueller report is released. I guess, or he might fire Rosenstein before then. Who knows? But I'm sure he's going to try and have his Justice Department not let it come public, but the Congress can subpoena it, and so they'll get it. It's going to come out one way or the other. He's going to try to squash it, to put it in the cobwebs, but that's not going to happen. So with the Democrats in Congress, they'll get it, and they will get it, and they'll get to the bottom of this, and they're going to get to the bottom of the, that Russian lawyer, Belnitskaya, in another matter. They're going after her for obstruction of justice, and if she's obstructing justice somewhere else, if you lie to a prosecutor or a judge, if you lie once, they just disregard everything else you say. And if she said that she was in that meeting in Trump Tower with Donnie Jr. and they were talking about adopting babies, they're not going to believe that. No one's believing that. So they probably were discussing ways Russia could help Trump get elected.
Well, it is very, very compelling. Let's put it that way.
It is. And what's more compelling, what's adding to the drama, is the fact that 800,000 employees are not getting a paycheck tomorrow, which is a tragedy.
Absolutely. Can you imagine the Coast Guard is coming out with little tips? They're not going to pay them, but here are a few little tips. Become a mystery shopper.
Yeah.
Some babysitting. This is what they're telling the rank and file of the Coast Guard, talking about protecting us from folks bringing in drugs into this country. Who does it better than the Coast Guard? And he's putting these people without pay to support border support, to support border safety, or whatever the hell he's talking about. He's crazy. This is nuts.
Well, I saw a number in the paper today. 28 million people in the United States use illegal drugs. That's a huge number. And the drugs that are coming in, they're coming over the border, around the border. They're coming in by ships. They're coming in by planes. They're coming in by mail. And they're coming in cars driven through the border checkpoints every day. Every day.
Jerry, why don't they just legalize all drugs and prescribe them? Would that not take care of everything?
That was the thing I was coming to. Years ago, I spoke to an assembly person who later became mayor of Oakland, and I said to him, why can't we have treatment centers for people with addiction? Number one, it would stop the crime. It would stop crime because people, if you're getting treated at a clinic and the drugs are covered either Medicaid or Medi-Cal, whatever you have, or some public health program, people don't have to break into homes. They don't have to knock down little ladies to steal their purses to get the money. They don't have to break into cars to get things to sell. So it would stop a lot of the stuff going on, and people who have addictions can be treated properly.
If one was addicted to donuts and you weighed 420 pounds, would putting you in jail do much for you instead of getting you treated and getting you some counseling?
Of course not.
The same thing.
Of course not.
Addiction is addiction. An addictive personality picks out things at random in their lives to be addicted to.
Right. But these people who a lot of the conservatives would never vote for treatment, for authorizing treatment centers across the country. A few years ago, this is about 20 years ago, when I was involved in a big lawsuit against the drug manufacturers for their discriminatory pricing schemes. I was in Washington, D.C.
Wait, let me introduce you for a second. Those that don't know, you were the Pharmacist of the Year in California, in the state of California. I think it was 1995, if I remember correctly.
Right, and that was because of the work that I did with Fred Mayer, he ran Pharmacist Planning Service in Sausalito in San Rafael, and our attorney was Joe Aliotto, former mayor of San Francisco, one of the premier antitrust lawyers in this country. And we filed the first lawsuit in the country challenging the multi-discriminatory pricing schemes of the drug manufacturers that were causing average people to pay higher amounts of money. They were favored buyers in the marketplace, for-profit companies that were getting huge discounts and then competing for our businesses. And when the manufacturers were granting them 95% off list below what we were paying, and they're competing for our businesses, charging just below what we could get, knowing that we couldn't match those prices, we're being driven out of business by these practices. And at the same time, to make up for the losses by giving these huge discounts, they raise the prices on the other people who aren't covered by these people with the favored discounts. So we went to them and we filed the first lawsuit in the country. There were 70 additional lawsuits filed around the country. We got the largest settlement in American antitrust history by a private lawsuit. And when they settled, the drug manufacturers settled with us for $725 million. And that money went to 40,000 pharmacies across the country. So that's why I got the award for that work, leading that fight to do it. Unfortunately, we won the battle but lost the war because the manufacturers are still doing their practices to this day. And you're seeing the higher prices. They have the middlemen, which are the pharmacy benefit management firms, who do not supply services. They don't fill a prescription. Some of them do own pharmacies and have mail-order pharmacy, and they are the beneficiaries of these discounted prices. They're making a ton of money. They're claims processors and mail-order pharmacies at the same time. So those things have been challenged or are being challenged. But for me, it's not my battle anymore because I'm out.
Jerry, would you clarify what's happening with bringing drugs into this country, United States, if anybody's listening, from Canada? What's going on with that?
For many years, because of the countries like Canada, we met with the gentleman who ran the drug program for the province of Quebec. The country of Canada negotiates prices with the drug manufacturers, and they set the terms. It's not like with the United States where the government doesn't get involved. The government does get involved, and they get great prices for the VA program. The VA gets the best prices across the country. But the manufacturers cost shift. They shift the losses to the self-paying public. That wouldn't happen in Canada because once you do it, they all pay the same prices. And the Canadian pharmacies were able to, because they were getting at these prices, they were able to, people who lived near the border could go into Canada. And because the Canadian dollar was less, at one point was about 75 cents to what the dollar was here, they would fill a prescription and mail it to you in Canada. Technically, it was against the law. It was illegal to do it, but no one was really coming down on people because they were getting their stuff in Canada. But I think because the Canadian dollar and the American dollar are on a par, the difference is not that great. But there are still some price advantages in Canada for people to take advantage of. because you walk into a pharmacy and you get a bill of $450 for, I'll give you an example, not $450. My lovely lady had to go to the hospital, and they prescribed 3 ounces of Donatol elixir for her. Donatol elixir is used to be very, very widely used. Donatol was a drug that was a phenobarbital and belladonna alkylase. It's an antispasmodic for your stomach. They used it very, very widely, tablets and liquid. Well, it used to be, it's phenomenally inexpensive, but there's no more generic because it's not used that much. 3 ounces cost $300. 3 ounces of a liquid that cost 15 cents to make was $300. That's obscene. It's obscene. And this is what's going on. Now, manufacturers have a right. They spend a lot of money developing drugs. It costs $1 billion, at least $1 billion, to get a drug to market. And there are lots of research where drugs don't make it. They invest money and they can't recoup their investment. That's part of the cost. But they get 22 years of patent protection. And so when they come out with it, and with the cost of everything, they just price it off the charts. It's whatever the market will bear. So
now, who are the members of the FDA? Who are they made up of? Aren't they made up of people from the pharmaceutical industry?
Yeah. There are doctors. There are doctors on the Food and Drug Administration, members of the pharmaceutical industry. Oh, absolutely. Scientists. They examine, and if you have a new drug application, you have to have documentation and tests, and it's very costly. And the people that we met, and I've been to the FDA in Rockville, Maryland, the people that we met at the facility are very, very knowledgeable and take their work very, very seriously. They just don't approve things. They're concerned with the safety of the American public. You go back to the early 60s, they had a drug, thalidomide, and you remember what happened with thalidomide, and it caused birth defects in children, and they were
given
using
to pregnant women, and what was what was the reason they were being prescribed?
I forgot what they were using it for, but it was widely used. It was widely used, and they had the birth defects, and the FDA rose to the occasion and said, no, we're not going to allow these drugs to come to market unless they're adequately tested, and they are safe. They are safe. And there have been other drugs that have been taken off the market. Vioxx was made by Merck. It was an anti-inflammatory, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. People were dying from heart attacks. I think there was another drug, Zomax, used for pain. People died, taken off the market. So that's what the FDA is supposed to do. It's supposed to protect the American public so that drugs aren't fast-tracked onto the market and that are dangerous to use.
Okay, Jerry, tell me something about the communication between a pharmacist and a doctor. Is there political correctness? Do they rely on that? Or say a prescription hits you and you know the patient and you realize that this may not just be right. There may be another drug that is less expensive and or more effective, more effective and or less expensive if you think about it. But would you pick up the phone and go, Dr. Schwartz, I think Dr. Valente prescribed this in ERA. Is there anything that can be done, for instance?
Well, that happened. There's a lot of communication. That happens lots of times. A doctor will prescribe. You look at the patient now with everything's computerized. You get the whole patient's profile in front of you. You check for drug interactions. You check to see how they're doing, to see if they've been stabilized on a drug, and you just never know. For example, I had a gentleman who was seeing a psychiatrist, and he was stabilized on a particular drug, The doctor changed the drug to a different. He thought it was a better antidepressant or antipsychotic or whatever it was. Well, the guy went home 4 days later, committed suicide. The doctor was beside himself, because he was stabilized on this other drug, changed it, didn't hold him, and it was just too late. So that happened. But there are times when I remember I was down in Santa Monica, and the doctor prescribed a drug. The dose is 5 drops 3 times a day before meals for gastric distress. Well, he wrote 1 teaspoonful 3 times a day. Well, if you took a teaspoonful of the drug 3 times a day, you'd have buried your patient. You would have killed him. But he's human, and that's why the pharmacist is to check. I called the physician. I said, "You didn't mean 5 cc. You meant 5 drops, didn't you?" And he said, he put his hand on his head and he said, "Oh my God, it happens. It happens."
Yeah.
He knew. So these things, and that's the pharmacist is supposed to check, is the final check on the physician to make sure you're getting the right drug for the right purpose. And if it's wrong,
now,
you call the
hasn't the
doctor.
computer age really helped us as patients
Sure.
putting all your drugs, what you're taking, how they coincide with each other, where if you're, one doctor doesn't know what another doctor prescribed, and doesn't this bring it all together on the computer? How accurate is that, or how
pretty
effective
good.
is that?
It's pretty good. It pops up on the screen. Sometimes they're minor. They're not real. They're what we call textbook interactions. They're listed in the literature, but they're not really a problem. But you can let the doctor know what's going on, that there's an interaction, and that you might want to try another drug, and you check it out for them. That happens all the time.
Okay. Have you had doctors tell a patient that there's absolutely no side effects on this drug?
Never. There are always side effects on any drug.
Okay.
You just never know. No one knows. No one knows when you get a new prescription. No one knows what's going to happen. The doctor is relying on his best information that he has. They use maybe in their armamentarium, they use maybe 10 or 12 drugs that they've had good success with. And they use that, and they know that most people are going to be successful, but not everybody. There's always someone that has a stomach problem or has a rash or an itch. Something will happen that's unforeseen, and you just never know. And so you tell people to be aware that this might happen. The other side of the coin is the power of suggestion. If you tell people something's going to happen, it's going to happen. So you have to be very balanced with that. But in one of the things that pharmacists do is that they're supposed to consult with people on every new prescription that they get. But at the same time, I was always available on an ongoing basis in consultation, because it's a process. You're taking drugs for long periods of time. What happens if I do this for this? Does it affect my kidney function? And sure, it might, and that's why you have blood work done once a year or every 6 months, whatever, when you're seeing your doctor regularly.
Yeah. Jerry just brought up something very interesting, mind over matter, that kind of thing. So are there doctors that just basically prescribe placebos to folks? And
not very rarely.
How that works?
Not very often. It happens occasionally, but not too often. Maybe once or twice, or 3 or 4 times in 30 or 40 years, but a few times.
Oh, okay.
But not too often.
I was just curious.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to talking about Trump. Let's talk about Trump. Let's talk about his.
We could talk about any future medication he might need, and how that would help him.
There's not enough medication in the world that will quiet him down. Anyway, his speech on the border situation, his intransigence in not speaking to the Democrats yesterday. I posted on Facebook yesterday that he came in with, let's negotiate, but the wall is off the table. We'll negotiate if you agree to the wall. Well, that was a take it or leave it demand. And that's the way the insurance companies would operate when they would offer pharmacist contracts. When you take a company like Blue Cross or they would come out with a prescription drug program, and they would maybe have someone administer for it, and you get the contract, and here's the contract. This is our negotiation. You have to agree to every word in the contract. You cannot negotiate with us. Take it or leave it. That was it. If you take it, you have to adhere to every provision in the contract before they won't do business with you. And that's what Trump said yesterday. You got to build a wall. I'll keep the government shut. Well, that's not a negotiation. That was a demand. And and Pelosi and Schumer said, no, thank you. It's off the table. And he stormed out. And you can't negotiate with someone that doesn't want to negotiate. He doesn't want to give 1 inch. That's not a negotiation. He's making demands. I don't care how you slice it. And the Democrats were right for rejecting it. There's no reason why they could send the people back to work, and they can negotiate the wall without having a government shutdown. That is not necessary in order to get the wall built or barrier built or whatever they want to do to secure the border. There's lots that they can do without keeping people out of work.
And then there are the allegations that everything the administration says about what's going on at the border is lies. How many arrests have been made, where the smuggling of drugs actually come from into this country. Come in by air, by cargo, in the legal way of bringing things in.
And they're
not bringing it legally, but they're not smuggling it over the southern border for the most part.
No, they're driven in cars and trucks. They're coming in ships. They're being interdicted by the Coast Guard. Planes fly in without lights over the border. They build tunnels under the border. They can do anything.
Of course.
Oh.
Of course, and this is basically an answer to his campaign appeal to his base, that he ran on this, and he's thinking, well, if I let these people down, if I let the Russ Limbaughs down, if I let the Ann Coulters down, then I won't be reelected. And you know what? If he's not reelected, he's going to, whether or not he puts off these indictments until he's out of office, if they can't indeed indict a sitting president, if he comes out of office before the statute of limitations go on, then he's toast, and he's going to be saying, howdy, Bubba. I'm glad you're my new cellmate because I know you would be nice to me. It's a great. Can you imagine the President of the United States serving time in prison?
Yeah, I can. In this case, yes. And the sooner he's measured for an orange jumpsuit, the better.
Yeah, I saw Gerald Ford's point of bringing the country together in not going for Nixon and giving him a pardon and what have you.
Right.
I couldn't see that in Pence's case, but I'm a real optimist, and I hope that Pence, they make this thing treasonous, which would make Pence a bye-bye guy too.
Well, the thing is, we don't know what Pence knew, or if he was lied to, or he talked to the Russians too. We don't know.
Right, but Mueller knows.
Mueller knows.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny. It'd be very interesting. Michael Cohen might know.
Michael Cohen might know. Who knows? It's unbelievable. With Manafort and Flynn and Gates and Papadopoulos, all these characters, all of them How many?
Oh, and then there's the leaders of his foundation and his inheritance. And, they're coming at him so many different ways. It's going to be fun to watch him implode, I have to say.
I'll tell you, I never thought that we would see the presidency of the United States degraded to this point. You know, and when you were in the military, who was president when you were in the Air Force?
I think it was FDR, if I'm not mistaken.
You're not that old.
No, I'm not. It was
could have been LBJ,
Johnson,
maybe.
I guess I was in from 65 to 69. I was in the Air Force.
Okay. So so 65 to 69. So Johnson was in, and then Nixon came in. So you were under a Democrat and a Republican. I started when Eisenhower in 1960. Kennedy had just gotten elected president, so Eisenhower was in, and then when I was in the reserve, I had Kennedy and Johnson. And in the military, it didn't matter who was the president. It was a Democrat or Republican. They were the commander in chief, and I had respect for the office for whoever was president. To get to that lofty an office, you have to do something right. Except in this case.
You have to have Joseph Kennedy deal with the Chicago Mafia, for instance.
Oh yeah. Well, what can I?
But that's another story.
That's another story. As you know, I grew up in Boston. I went to the same high school as Joseph Kennedy. He went there a few years before I did, but I also went to the same high school as Samuel Adams and John Hancock and Charles.
Well, but Joseph Kennedy that you went to high school with or didn't go to high school with, he was the Joseph Kennedy Sr. that I'm talking about. Joseph Kennedy
No, he graduated. He graduated in 1912 or 10. Who knows when he graduated? Old man Kennedy.
Well before you, my friend.
Yeah, way before me.
Yeah. Okay. I wonder if you knew Joseph Kennedy Jr.
No. No, I never met any of the Kennedys. Although Teddy Kennedy lived up on Beacon Hill, and he had a town. I don't know. He had a house up there, and it was right near the pharmacy school. And he used to get angry when the guys were playing football during their lunch break in front of his house. So, but that's a long time ago.
Yes, quite a long time ago. Jerry, nice chatting with you today. We had a good one.
Yeah, we had a good one. We got baseball coming up, Fan Fest on January 27th at Jack London Square. The A's are getting ready to go to spring training. They open the season in Japan on March.
My Mets
21st,
signed your second baseman, Mr. Lowry.
Oh, did they sign him today?
Yes, they did.
That's a good move on the Mets' part. What kind of money
Absolutely a good move on the Mets'
I
part.
didn't,
They're putting it together. I'm just hoping they sign Bryce Harper, and then it'll be a World Series New York Mets. But
I like I think Jed was a teammate of he was a teammate of the Yoenis Cespedes. And Cespedes.
Oh, that's right. He was in Oakland.
Yeah, he was with them in 2013 and 14. Yep.
Well, it doesn't look like Yoenis is going to contribute much to the Mets this year.
No, he's recovering from those
they're
field
doing
surgeries.
it without him. They're trying to build it up. Hey, Jerry.
Anyway,
please continue
to
recuperate, if you would.
Yeah, and we'll get together in February. I'm kind of busy between now and February, so.
That sounds wonderful. You be healthy, be well, and thank you for listening, everybody. I am Ralph Tyko, the man with Gall. Adios, everybody.
Take care.
The proceeding was a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production. Thank you for listening.